Learning English podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, so let's dive right into mastering 3 super simple words that are literally going to upgrade your professional communication overnight. You know, a lot of language learners hit this incredibly frustrating plateau, right? Like they know all the vocabulary, they understand the grammar rules, but their conversations still feel, I don't know, a bit clunky, maybe a little awkward, or even unintentionally harsh. And man, it's a terrible feeling when your high level of professional expertise just doesn't quite match the words coming out of your mouth. Well, today we're going to fix that disconnect completely by introducing what we like to call the business suit of the English language. So let's start off with a pretty crucial question, and it's one that kind of challenges what most ESL learners actually think they struggle with. Do you have a grammar problem? I mean, if you asked a room full of professionals, most of them would instantly be like, yes, absolutely, grammar is my biggest enemy. They stress over all these complex formulas, they try to master perfect verb tenses, and they're totally obsessed with making sure every single subject-verb agreement is flawless before they even dare to open their mouths. But here's the massive secret we're unpacking today. You actually don't need to memorize boring formulas to sound like a native professional. No, you have a politeness problem. The absolute truth is you simply need to know how to show respect in real, everyday conversations. It's really that simple. By shifting your focus away from those strict robotic grammar rules and leaning into the actual feeling behind your words, you naturally just smooth out all those conversational bumps. You get this amazing, confident fluency just by focusing on empathy instead of mechanics. Think about it like this. Imagine your normal, everyday English as a really comfortable but, very casual t-shirt. It totally gets the job done, and it's perfectly fine for hanging out with friends on the weekend. But you probably wouldn't wear it to the boardroom when you're trying to close a massive deal, right? Well, putting on these 3 specific words is exactly like putting on a crisp, perfectly tailored professional suit. It completely elevates your linguistic personality, making you sound instantly more polished, way more capable, and highly respectful. All right, let's jump into our first word, could, the polite request. Now, we're not going to define could with some rigid grammar rule. Instead, think about the actual psychological feeling it creates when you're talking. Could is a polite request that sounds powerful but respectful, unlike a raw command. See, when you use this word, you're asking for help gracefully instead of just demanding it. And wow, this is a subtle but massive psychological shift. It gives you authority, right? It shows you're leading the interaction, but you're doing it while maintaining deep, genuine respect for the other person's autonomy. Let's visualize this. Picture yourself walking up to the office lobby doors. You are balancing this ridiculous stack of super heavy boxes, like you can barely even see over the top of them. And you notice someone standing right by the door. Now, if you use can and say, can you open the door? Well, technically, you're actually questioning their physical ability. You're basically asking, hey, do your arms work? But upgrading to could you open the door, creates a much softer, much gentler request. It transforms a weird physical question into a warm invitation that actually makes the person want to hold that door for you. And let's take this straight into the boardroom to see how it completely shifts power dynamics. Imagine you're in this incredibly high-pressure meeting with a massive client. The stakes are huge. If you turn to a colleague and say, can you read this file? Oof, it just sounds bossy and commanding, right? It creates instant tension in the room. But if you upgrade to could you read this file, please? Bam, you instantly sound like a powerful but polite top manager. You're leading the room with absolute grace, directing the workflow instead of just barking orders and stressing everybody out. Moving right along to our second word, would, the polite desire. So, what does would actually do? Well, it upgrades aggressive, raw emotion into an elegant desire or a really polite offer. Think about our most direct, unfiltered demands. Honestly, sometimes they can sound a bit like a crying child throwing a tantrum, right? Wood takes those raw demands and magically transforms them into thoughtful, elegant, and highly professional choices. It is quite literally the linguistic difference between an impulsive, knee-jerk reaction and a carefully considered professional stance. To picture this, imagine the rich smell of coffee in a quiet, beautiful, really upscale cafe. If you sit down at a table and just bluntly tell the barista, I want a coffee, you are leading with raw, unfiltered emotion. It's abrupt, it's honestly borderline aggressive. Now, sure, the barista will probably still pour your drink, but they definitely aren't going to be thrilled about it. But saying, I would like a coffee, that completely changes the mood of the room. It introduces this musical elegance and a refined politeness that is pretty much guaranteed to make that barista smile and give you their absolute best service. Okay, now let's apply this directly back to the office. Telling a manager or a colleague, I want a meeting with you, is so incredibly blunt. I mean, it's so harsh, it almost sounds like you're about to fire them. It puts people on the defensive instantly, spiking their anxiety way before the meeting even starts. However, I would like a meeting with you completely diffuses that tension. It's perfectly professional, it's highly polite, and it sets this wonderfully collaborative, safe tone right from the very first word. And here's a cool trick. You can also flip this exact word around to make offers. Think back to that coworker carrying those heavy boxes in the lobby. You could casually say, do you want help? Which, is fine. But would you like some help? Is the absolute most respectful way possible to offer your assistance. Notice how warm and inviting that sounds? It gives them the dignified space to either politely accept or decline, all while making you sound incredibly generous. All right, take a deep breath because here is our third magic word. Should. Friendly advice. We like to define should as friendly advice that basically feels like a warm hug for a stressed brain. Picture a coworker who is just totally overwhelmed. I mean, they're rubbing their temples, staring blankly at their monitor, completely stuck on this massive problem. At that exact moment, the absolute last thing they need is someone shouting orders at them or adding more weight to their cognitive load. What they desperately need is a safe, friendly suggestion, a gentle offering of guidance that they still have the power to either take or leave. Notice the stark contrast in how these two sentences literally feel physically. If you just abruptly say, talk to your manager, man, that feels like a harsh, heavy order landing right square in their chest. It just spikes their anxiety even more. But if you slow down, soften your delivery, and say, you should talk to your manager, you can audibly hear the difference. Adding that little word should completely changes the impact. It shows you actually care about their stress and you're offering a guiding hand, not just throwing another heavy task on their plate. Let's raise the stakes for a second. Imagine an entire project team is totally deadlocked, and there's a massive deadline looming on Friday. The boss has to step in to fix the direction. Barking out, make a decision, totally strips away the team's agency and causes an instant panic. But saying, you should make a decision, clearly directs them toward the right path. It empowers them to act without backing them into a terrifying, stressful corner. That is leading through positive influence rather than sheer intimidation. Okay, let's look at this smart comparison, putting all this magic together. Let's lock in this zero thinking formula by doing a really quick synthesis. Look at how the underlying situations remain exactly the same, but the polite English completely transforms the feeling of respect. A basic kind of clunky request like, can you help me, softens and matures beautifully into, could you help me? A raw emotional desire like, I want, evolves into the elegant, I would like. And a bossy direct command just gracefully softens into the caring advisory you should. It's like night and day. So let's open up the Air Lab. Think of this as the final boss battle or a practical exam to test out your brand new communication superpower. We're going to use 3 super simple steps to fix some truly terrible English mistakes. First, we identify the raw, aggressive emotion that's driving the sentence. Next, we choose the correct polite magic word based on the situation. And finally, we execute it smoothly to just speak English nicely. Take a look at this intensely rude demand. You must help me right now. Whoa, that is a dangerous and highly aggressive way to speak to a colleague. So let's walk through our 3 steps. First, we identify the core need. Okay, it's a request for help. Second, we pick our magic word for polite requests, which is could. By applying this, we effortlessly transform a terrible toxic demand into a perfectly polite, highly effective request. Could you help me, please? Easy, right? But what about a direct insult? Imagine telling a coworker, your project is bad. Yikes. That is a fantastic way to instantly destroy a working relationship. Let's run it through our formula. We want to offer guidance and fix the actual issue without attacking the person who made it, so we use our word for friendly advice. Watch how this seamlessly transforms a harsh insult into incredibly helpful, safe advice. You should check your project again. It works beautifully. It separates the person from the problem, maintaining their dignity while still making sure the error gets fixed. The absolute golden rule of this entire explainer is beautifully summed up in this simple phrase: speak English, but speak it nicely. Honestly, when you put on this linguistic business suit, you literally change how the entire world treats you. The ripple effect is just massive. Being polite and respectful doesn't just make people want to help you in that specific moment, it makes them advocate for you when you aren't even in the room. It builds deep, lasting professional trust, and it consistently grows your reputation as the kind of leader people genuinely want to work with. So let's put this into practice right away. Could you write a polite request in the comments? Would you like to try? Think about the absolute toughest, most high stakes conversation you have scheduled this week. Which of these 3 magic words are you going to intentionally use to completely change the outcome of that meeting? Go ahead, put on your brand new business suit, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next explainer.